Introduction. Dear students, in this session, we're going to talk about one of the most important social problems in the world, single parenting. According to every human being, there has always existed an obligate symbiosis associated with single parenting, involving the accountability of two people. Single parenting is one of the most predominant factors that tell the world is on a new turn. Let us now see the definition of single parenting. As the word implies by itself, a single parent taking care of a child or children who has a primary responsibility for the child or children in all possible ways. And when the child lives with only one parent, subdued by ignorance, then that's called single parenting. Most of the time, the parent with whom the child resides we call the primary parent, and the other parent who might have the rights to visit the child is called the secondary parent. In India, we have seen single parenting becoming a more common trend than before. However, the reasons for single parenting are not always the same when compared with Western countries. In our country, bringing up a child alone has its own challenges that are unique to the cultural and social setup of our country. This makes it very difficult in countries like ours, especially because marriage and married life is considered the most integral part of one's adulthood. Let's take a quick look at what we are going to cover in this topic. First, we're going to look at the major factors that lead to single parenting, and then we're going to talk about the consequences of single parenting. We will then assess the social and emotional challenges faced by a single parent and the effects of single parenting. Finally, we will identify some solutions to overcome the problems associated with single parenting. Factors leading to single parenting. Certain unwanted situations could come up unexpectedly in one's life. This could cause single parenting. In this case, single parenting is not often a matter of choice. Rather, it becomes a need of the time. Nowadays, the major causes for single parenting are as follows: separation of couples, one of the parent unable to perform his duty as a parent towards a child, child abuse by one of the parents, divorce of parents, subsequent pregnancy in the woman, and pregnancy from a single mother. Let us discuss each of these situations in detail. The first situation we are going to assess is the death of a partner. Historically, in India, a partner's death was a prime cause for single parenting. Death at a very young age because of lack of self-discipline, habitual disorders like drinking, excessive smoking, increased diseases, and increased number of accidents are attributes to the same. Many lives were lost, leaving many mothers widows and therefore the only parent to take care of the child. By time, better living conditions and awareness about hygiene and health has decreased the number of deaths. However, this does not remain a major factor for the decline in the number of single parenting. Adoption. Adoption is one of the reasons for single parenting. When we look at the changes in the Indian society that has been influenced by various factors globally, increase in adoption rates are also justified. Increase in literacy, changes in lifestyle, education levels of people being raised, and therefore the readiness to accept challenges that come with these changes have all resulted in single parenting through adoption. Having a biological child is considered to have its own ill effects on the woman, and therefore choice of having a biological child is also diminishing. We see through media several celebrities adopting children without marriage and subsequently campaigning for child adoption. Now, with media promoting these ideas, we have resorted to subject ourselves to these thought processes. We have allowed ourselves to be influenced greatly by Western culture. Very unusually, we do see now the number of people living alone in our society, where they seek independence and do not consider intervention of family as support, rather as intrusion. Therefore, this kind of mindset leads to a disagreement to the idea of marriage between parents and children of the current generation. Recent statistics show that children in India do not want to live with their parents once they become independent. Sometimes this too leads to single parenting for various reasons. Divorce. Divorce is another major factor that leads to single parenting. We see a lot of divorces and subsequent single parenting situations among our own friends, family, and relatives. In most cases, the mother serves as a primary caretaker of the child in the Indian parenting system during divorce and unwanted pregnancy. In India, due to social changes happening with respect to liberalization, men and women have started facing equal stress from their professional lives. This makes it difficult for them to settle their issues and conflicts, leading to higher divorce rates. Nuclear family system has also contributed to higher divorce rates for want of support. Divorce leads to conflict in physical custody of the child and the ability of the parent to make important decisions about the child's life. Live-in relationships. Recent studies have shown that even in India, people prefer living in relationships before marriage, which leads to unplanned pregnancy. The number of births before marriage in India is rising and is not acceptable to the Indian society. However, Indian women seek to adopt foreign thought processes and eventually find themselves failing in the Indian social structure. Consequences of single parenting. Let us take a look at the adverse effects of single parenting. We all know that the personality of an individual depends on that person's childhood experiences. After all, we are all a bundle of our past. A child that enjoys happy childhood with both parents have greater chances to grow into a more refined, holistic individual. A child that loses its father or its mother experiences the consequences of the loss. This, however, depends on the age of the child when the loss occurs and molds the attitude and personality of the child thereafter. It is very difficult to understand the difficulties faced by children that are very young, especially in the ages ranging from 2 to 8 years. Separation creates insecurity in the mind and heart of the child. At this stage, these feelings cannot be expressed as they would like to be expressed. Therefore, the child's behavior changes, they are confused, they find it hard to adapt to these situations, and slowly they become unacceptable among their circle in the society. Slowly, the child begins to grow according to the exposure he or she receives, and this usually turns out negative. The effects on children varies from age to age. Bigger children, above 14 years of age, can understand the situation, express their emotions, and when their behavior turns contradicting, it is easier to identify. However, the feeling of helplessness and disbelief takes deep roots in their hearts. They prefer to take help from outsiders than from their own parents because they have lost trust in their parents. Children in the adolescent phase are usually not ready for adjustments, and therefore they find it very difficult to accept the changes that are happening around them, pushing them to a feeling of loneliness, the feeling of having lost their entire family. This leads them to the belief that they have to pull their act together, work on their own, become independent thinkers, and thereby feeling that they do not need the help of family anymore. Problems associated with these situations can be social, mental, emotional, as well as cognitive. Children find that they don't have sufficient resources or are prevented from accessing these resources when they are in stressful situations caused by these occurrences in their family. This becomes a nightmare, and some children expected to live with a parent that has become single because of these situations also have to suffer economically and cannot understand why they cannot have access to good education, finer living conditions, access to resources like books, computers, and tuitions. They also find themselves losing their social status among their own peers, sometimes because of their changed attire, the gadgets that he cannot afford, and other accessories that his peers are enjoying. If the primary caretaker of the child is the woman and is unable to stand on her own, take up an independent job, then this becomes a serious issue of concern. Facilitating the well-being of a child in these conditions require having or introducing high income possibilities. When we look at the social structures of the past in India, the father was only the secondary caregiver to the child or children because of his extended work hours and bigger range of responsibilities in and around the household. Thus, the father is less attached to the child. However, in the current scenario of the social structure in India, fathers play a major role in parenting. Challenges. Now that we have an understanding of the consequences of single parenting, let us look at the challenges one faces while performing the role of a single parent. Our ancestors have always believed and made us believe that a woman is incomplete without the presence of a man in her life. In such cultures, single parenting brings several challenges to the woman who has to raise a child alone. She faces all kinds of criticism from her relatives and friends throughout her life. All these affects the child or the children involved because they begin to sense or develop. All these affect the child or children very much because they tend to develop a feeling of harshness in the dealings of others towards them and their parent. When these children grow up, they become very angry and rude in all their dealings with others. In a patriarchal society, if the male is the single parent, they do not face as much harassment from the society as the woman. However, if the single parenthood status is given to the father as a result of the mother's death, then they are under the pressure of getting into a second marriage. This is quite common in India in the middle class. Single parenting is an art that requires mastering. It is not generally possible for anyone to single parent successfully. However, as single parents mature in their role, they become much more responsible and are able to succeed in performing as a single parent effectively. It is important for us to understand the emotional problems that arise due to the lack of support from a partner. The single parent experiences loneliness, and this also has to be combated alone. In a normal family, where both parents are taking care of the child or children, the tasks are usually divided between the two parents. The husband earns and the wife takes care of the family and home. Even if the wife is earning, the chores are shared by the husband. However, in single parenting, the responsibility doubles. This becomes quite challenging whether the single parent is the woman or the man. Either way, whether it is a male or the female who has to single parent, he or she has to take care of the house, the child, go to work, and take care of all the associated responsibilities all by themselves. A sense of helplessness creeps in. Inability to discipline the child and constantly keep them under the supervision of elders becomes a challenge, and they feel they fail in managing all of these together. Let us now discuss the outcome of inadequate parenting caused by single parenting, the effect it has on academic achievement in children, the emotional disturbance it causes in children, the conduct of the children, also the relationship patterns of children with their peers when they are in these situations. We all know that it's absolutely important for both the parents to be involved in the life of a child all through his growing up years. Parents become the role model to create an ambience, an environment in the house for the child to grasp the right values, principles, and aspects of life, relationship, and social placement. Positive effects of single parenting. As we saw earlier, single parenting brings with it several challenges, whether by choice or by need of time. Let us see now the positive effects of single parenting. 1. A strong bond is created between the child and the parent who raises a child. The social circle gets extended beyond the family. The child becomes more responsible and is ready to face unforeseen circumstances in life pretty early. Strong bond between the child and the parent. When a child is brought up by only one of his or her parents, he or she looks upon that parent as a world. The caregiving parent is a savior, caretaker, friend, and name the relationship. The bond between the child and the parent is extremely strong, since there's no person outside of the single parent acting as a primary caregiver. The child and the parent are able to share quality time with each other. There is hardly any conflict of ideas and ideologies, and the child and the parent are together in facing the challenges of their day-to-day life. These children mature faster because they are led to understand the problems of the parent and support the parent. Such children reciprocate with much more love and affection. The mutual understanding between the parent and the child is very deep. Extended help from others. We can understand single parents often feel lonely because of the absence of a partner in their lives. Therefore, they are usually engaged in community activities to ward off the loneliness. They also encourage their children to interact with others and induce social structures that will make the child feel better. Thus, this family ends up in having a bigger circle of friends and relatives and the advantage of getting help whenever required from multiple sources. The more they get into the society, the greater their interactions, and the more practical and mature they become as parents as well as children. Early realization of responsibilities. Children who grow up with single parents face hard challenges at a very young age. They therefore are induced to extend help to their parent. They understand clearly the need for support to take the family forward and are much more equipped to support the family in multiple ways. From a very early age, they support their families even financially. Even before they start earning, they are able to curb their expenses and thereby provide support. Better ability to deal with unfavorable situations. Parents face many ups and downs in their day-to-day lives, especially in the aspect of raising children. Children begin to experience and sense these difficulties from their parents as they grow up. This gives them better understanding and a deep knowledge of life, causes them to accept reality as it is, and therefore equips them to deal with disappointments and unfavorable situations pretty early in life. Remedies. We discuss the challenges and consequences of single parenting. Here, let us look at how to overcome these and see how we can make single parenting nice and successful for both the child and the parent. Maintaining discipline. Discipline in children is the first and foremost consideration in single parenting. For better upbringing and growth of children, regular activity plans for children plays a major role. It is the duty of the parent to pay attention to the child's food habits, bedtime habits, and participation in household chores. Discipline should be acceptable and not excessive, interfering, or pressurizing. because these can have unfavorable effects on the child's psychology as well. Managing budget. Keeping a track of finances is absolutely important for single parents. They cannot just spend on anything that the child desires. Budget control is an important aspect of growth for the child, especially because the source of income is from one person. The focus should be on the needs of the child or children rather than the wants. Right from the start, parents should make the child or children aware of the differences between needs and wants. Thus, child or children learn to spend wisely, and they in turn will know how to manage their needs and their wants. Seeking help from others. A single parent at some point in time finds it difficult to take care of their child's needs alone. Therefore, it is important for a single parent to take help from family and friends in order to manage the day-to-day stress. They may also have to take the help of a counselor sometimes. Seeking help from others financially and/or emotionally for the betterment of the children becomes inevitable. Joining a single parenting group. Support groups with other single parents becomes the need of the hour for every single parent in order to overcome the adverse consequences of single parenting. Such formal groups or informal groups are not widely spread in India. However, one can form their own single parenting groups. This helps not only the parent but also the child to have company and discuss problems specific to single parenting and find a solution together. We learn from our own experiences more often than not. Sometimes others' experiences also enrich us and lead us to arrive at the right decisions in our own lives. Recognizing kids' efforts. Another remedy is appreciation. It is always important to praise a growing child, more so for single parents. This fills the emotional gaps in the lives of these children and motivates them in comparison to other normal children. Every time the child extends help to the parent, the single parent must appreciate the effort and praise the child and let them know that their help is very important. Encouraging children to participate in all the day-to-day activities also becomes very important. Initial reaction of the child could be one of disappointment. However, dealt with carefully, the adverse effects of getting a child to become responsible can be reduced. Informing the child and letting them know constantly that they are secure. This is an important aspect because a sense of security may be lost easily when one parent is raising a child. It is the responsibility of the parent to give the comfort required and make the child feel protected and loved, and that the absence of the other partner will not make anything missing from their lives. Conclusion. We have discussed the details around single parenting in terms of causes, consequences, as well as remedies. Per the laws of nature and society, it is a birthright of a child to grow in a secure environment of a family where both parents exist. Due to certain circumstances, this may not be possible at all times. Losing one of the parents by way of death, divorce, or separation can leave the child being single-parented. Adoption is another reason for single parenting when a person decides to stay unmarried. In some cases, unexpected or unwanted pregnancy and live-in relationships can also be a reason for single parenting. Whatever the reason for single parenting, when the parent is led to the situation of raising a child on his or her own without the counterpart support, single parenting becomes very challenging. It has its own adverse effects. However, these adverse effects can be turned to positive for themselves and for their children by dealing with the insecurities, providing proper care and understanding, and showing them that it can be quite rewarding. It is important that a single parent develops a good bonding with the child or children. It is important to remember that children of different ages react differently to single parenting situations. It is absolutely important for parents to understand the psychology of their children and respond accordingly rather than react to the situation themselves. Single parenting is not a social problem. It is, of course, a situation that can create social problems, but if handled carefully, it can raise the best children and produce the best individuals in the next generation. However, if not handled properly, it can lead to social problems by giving to the society problematic children. We know now that single parenting can be equally enjoyable and satisfying. All we need is a little more maturity and patience from the parent's side, and education and awareness in the child's mind and heart.